I'm standing on charred dock planks at dawn, staring at what's left of my father's sailboat, the one he spent 3 years restoring before cancer took him. The hull is a blackened carcass, the mast snapped clean in half, drooping into the lake like a broken spine. Fiberglass melted into grotesque bubbles. It's still smoking. The smell hits first, gasoline and burnt resin, chemical and wrong. Safety glass crunches under my boots. Above me, birds chirp like nothing happened. They torched it because I wouldn't bow to our HOA dictator. Thought it would break me. Worst decision they ever made. I didn't just rebuild. I froze their bank accounts, exposed their embezzlement, sent their president to prison, and dismantled the whole corrupt machine. Before we start, comment, what would you do if your HOA destroyed something priceless? Lawyer up, move, or go nuclear? And where are you watching from? How many of you are stuck under an HOA right now? My name is Garrett Holloway. I'm 54 years old, retired Coast Guard, 28 years of search and rescue off the Carolina coast. 2 commendations. More close calls than I care to remember. I pulled a kid out of a capsized yacht during a nor'easter in 2003, hypothermic and not breathing. We got him back. That kind of thing stays with you. I retired at 52, bought this place on Lake Thornton with my inheritance, a small cabin, nothing fancy, but it had a dock and a view that made you forget the world existed. The sailboat, the Horizon Runner, was my father's. A 1987 Morgan Out Island 41. Beautiful lines, teak deck, smelled like varnish and decades of salt air even after I dragged her onto the lake. She needed work when he passed 5 years ago. Cancer, aggressive. He didn't get to finish restoring her, so I did. Took me 3 years. Sanded every inch of that hull by hand. My fingers still remember the grit of 80-grade paper and the smell of teak oil in the morning sun. Replaced the rigging, rebuilt the engine. It was therapy, better than any shrink. I'd work on her all day, then head into my garage and mess around with woodworking projects at night. Built a bookshelf for my daughter, a few Adirondack chairs, kept my hands busy. I'm divorced, nothing dramatic, just grew apart, and my daughter Bryn is 29, works as an architect in Raleigh. We're close. She visits once a month, and we're good. No baggage. On weekends, I taught sailing lessons to local kids for free, because my dad taught me the same way. You pass it on. Life was simple, quiet. Exactly what I wanted after 3 decades of adrenaline and bureaucracy. Then I met Darlene Vickridge. Darlene is 61, president of the Emerald Shores Homeowners Association, has been for 11 years. Blonde bob that never moves in the wind, designer athleisure outfits that probably cost more than my truck payment, and this habit of tilting her head and smiling with her mouth but not her eyes when she's about to ruin your day. Oh, and she drives a white Lexus SUV with a vanity plate that says LVNMYLAKE. Yeah, that kind of person. Emerald Shores is a 340-home community wrapped around Lake Thornton. Quasi-gated, dues are $320 a month. My property predates the HOA incorporation back in 2003, so technically I'm grandfathered in, but I'm still subject to common area usage rules, whatever the hell that means. Darlene's interpretation changes depending on whether she likes you. Spoiler, she didn't like me. Her power base is airtight. Her sister Paige is the treasurer, some guy named Hank who owns an HVAC company is the VP, and the rest of the board are country club buddies who rubber stamp whatever she wants. The HOA controls a $1.8 million annual budget. That's a lot of money for lawn care and clubhouse rentals. Darlene's reputation? Selective enforcement is her specialty. She'll ticket your pickup truck for being in the driveway overnight, but her son's lifted Jeep with the obnoxious exhaust? Totally fine. She forces architectural sameness. Every house has to be beige, tan, or gray. She banned unapproved landscaping, which apparently includes vegetable gardens and anything that isn't a boxwood hedge. People were afraid of her, and I didn't care because I kept to myself, until she decided my dock was a problem. 6 months before the fire, I got a certified letter. Darlene claimed my private dock encroached 2 feet into the HOA-controlled navigational channel. She demanded I shorten it by spring or pay a $5,000 fine. I hired a surveyor. Cost me $800. Results? My dock was entirely on my deeded waterfront. The HOA's map was outdated from 1998, before property lines were adjusted. I had receipts, permits from 1995, everything. I presented the evidence at a monthly board meeting. Darlene sat at the head table under flickering fluorescent lights, the room smelling like burnt coffee and Lysol. She barely looked at my documents, just tapped her gavel one hollow thunk and said, "The board will review this." They never did. Instead, the retaliation started. Tow trucks called on my truck twice, even though I was parked legally. Anonymous complaints to county inspectors about unpermitted structures. Passive-aggressive comments at neighborhood cookouts. Some people think rules don't apply to them. Then, at the 4th of July party, I overheard her talking to a developer buddy by the grill. I was grabbing a plate of ribs when her voice carried over the music. Once I clear that eyesore, Doc, the lot's worth double for a tear-down rebuild. She was talking about my property. That's when I knew. Darlene didn't want compliance. She wanted me gone. August rolled in hot and humid, the kind of weather where the air feels like you're breathing through a wet towel. I'd just gotten back from a long weekend visiting Bryn in Raleigh. We'd gone to some farm-to-table restaurant she loved, spent Sunday morning at the farmer's market. Good trip. I was relaxed. That lasted about 30 seconds after I pulled into my driveway. I walked down to the dock to check on the Horizon runner, and my stomach dropped. Someone had spray-painted the hull, crude, dripping letters in neon orange. Welfare Sailor on the port side, Go Home on the starboard. The paint was still tacky, fresh, maybe 6-7 hours old. I stood there, the dock creaking under my feet, the smell of spray paint mixing with the lake's algae and fish scent, and I felt this cold rage settle into my chest. Not the hot kind that makes you do something stupid, the cold kind that makes you methodical. I called the sheriff's department. Deputy Crowley showed up 40 minutes later. Good guy, ex-Marine. We'd grabbed beers a few times at the VFW. He took photos, wrote up a report, but his face told me everything. No witnesses, no cameras, Garrett. I'm sorry. Could have been kids. Kids don't have the gate code to get into the marina area, Tom. He looked at me for a long moment. You thinking HOA? I'm thinking someone wants me to leave. He nodded slowly, closed his notepad. Keep your head down, and get some cameras, then quieter, and maybe lawyer up. Off the record, I've seen HOA boards do worse than graffiti when they want someone gone. That same afternoon, the HOA sent out an email blast to all 340 homes. Subject line, reminder, community standards for watercraft. The email was pure Darlene. Passive-aggressive legalese about how unsightly vessels must meet appearance codes and how violators will face escalating fines until compliance is achieved. She didn't mention my name. Didn't have to. Everyone knew. I sat at my kitchen table that night, staring at the orange paint still visible through my window, and thought about my options. I could scrub it off and pretend it didn't happen. I could sell and leave. Or I could do what my father taught me in the Coast Guard. When someone tries to sink you, you don't bail water. You find the leak in their hull. I remembered something from my divorce proceedings, my lawyer explaining how public records requests work. Government entities, HOAs, even some nonprofits have to disclose financial documents if you ask the right way. It's called Sunshine Laws in North Carolina. Most people don't know about it. Most HOA boards hope you don't know about it. I registered a domain that night, emeraldshoresaccountability.com. Cost me $12. Spun up a WordPress site, nothing fancy, just a clean layout and a mission statement. Transparency and fairness for all Emerald Shores homeowners. Then I got to work. First post, scanned copy of the surveyor's report, showing my dock was fully within my property lines. I wrote a short summary in plain English, no legalese, just facts. The HOA claimed my dock violated setback rules. An independent surveyor proved otherwise. The board refused to acknowledge the evidence. Second post, photos. Darlene's son's lifted Jeep parked in their driveway, flagrantly violating the oversized vehicle rule that she'd used to fine at least a dozen other homeowners. I didn't editorialize, just posted the rule text next to the photo. Let people draw their own conclusions. Third post, and this one made my hands shake when I uploaded it. I'd filed that public records request with the county 2 weeks earlier, right after the dock dispute started. Took some trial and error with the wording, but the county clerk finally sent me a packet of contracts between the HOA and local businesses. Buried in there, $47,000 over 18 months paid to Vickridge Property Consulting for management advisory services. Vickridge, as in Darlene Vickridge, her own brokerage, billing the HOA at $340 an hour while she was also collecting a monthly stipend as president. Double dipping from the same pot we were all paying into. I posted the invoices. All of them. My cursor hovered over the publish button for a full minute. This was the point of no return. Once this went live, Darlene would come for me with everything she had. I thought about my father's boat, covered in spray paint. I clicked publish. By Thursday morning, the blog had been shared 2,300 times across local Facebook groups. My email inbox had 64 messages, some thanking me, some asking questions, 3 telling me I was an idiot. People were angry. Comment sections lit up. Someone made a meme of Darlene's Lexus vanity plate with the caption, "Stealin' your money." I laughed so hard I choked on my coffee. Darlene called an emergency board meeting, closed session, naturally. But Paige, her own sister, the treasurer, left the community center looking pale and shaky. I happened to be driving by. She wouldn't make eye contact. Friday afternoon, I got a certified letter from the Klein Group, attorneys at law. Thick envelope, fancy letterhead, the paper so heavy it felt like parchment. Cease and desist demand, remove the blog within 72 hours, or face a defamation lawsuit. The letter cited false and malicious allegations causing irreparable harm to Mrs. Vickridge's reputation and business interests. I read it twice. Then I smiled. Because here's the thing about defamation that I'd learned during my divorce. Truth is an absolute defense. You can't be sued for telling the truth, no matter how much it hurts someone's reputation. And I had receipts for everything. I scanned the letter, posted it to the blog with a new entry titled, "They're threatening to sue me for telling the truth." Then I drafted a response on plain paper, printed it, and sent it back via certified mail. Dear Klein Group, I look forward to discovery. Bring your checkbook. Sincerely, Garrett Holloway. That weekend, Darlene showed up at the neighborhood wine and cheese thing at the clubhouse. I wasn't there. Marisol Gutierrez called me afterward, laughing so hard she could barely talk. Marisol owns a landscaping company, lives 3 streets over, and Darlene had fined her $2,000 last spring for unapproved hedge height. We'd commiserated over beers once. She'd been following the blog religiously. "Garrett, you should have seen her," Marisol said. "She had like 4 glasses of Chardonnay and started yelling. Said you were a menace. Said someone needs to teach you a lesson." "She said that?" Out loud. Half the room heard it. Vanessa Cho recorded it on her phone. I'll send you the file. I saved that audio in 3 places. Monday morning, I installed 2 4K security cameras on my dock. Cloud backup, motion alerts sent straight to my phone. Cost me $400, worth every penny. Darlene drove by that evening in her white Lexus. Slowed to a crawl. Stared at the cameras for a good 10 seconds, her face visible through the windshield lips pressed into a thin line, jaw tight. Then she gunned it, tires squealing on the asphalt like a teenager throwing a tantrum. I watched the footage later that night, the blue glow of my laptop screen reflecting off my kitchen window. You could see her knuckles white on the steering wheel. She was planning something. I could feel it the way you feel a storm coming in off the ocean pressure drop, wind shift, that electric tingle in the air before the first lightning strike. I just didn't know how bad it would be. September came in with cooler mornings and the first hint of fall colors on the trees around the lake. I was sanding down a coffee table in my garage, one of those mindless woodworking projects that lets your brain churn in the background when the process server showed up. Young guy, couldn't have been more than 25, looked apologetic as he handed me the envelope. "Sorry, man. Just doing my job." "I know. Thanks." I waited until he left before I opened it. Lawsuit. The HOA was suing me for $50,000 in reputational damages, plus an injunction to shut down the blog. The complaint was 32 pages of legal word salad, but the gist was simple. Darlene wanted me silenced, and she was willing to bankrupt me to do it. The Klein Group, same law firm from the cease and desist, was representing the HOA, probably billing $450 an hour, straight out of our dues money. The irony wasn't lost on me. They offered mediation 2 weeks later. I showed up at their downtown office, all glass and steel and uncomfortable modernist furniture, and sat across from some slick attorney who looked like he bought his suits in New York and his personality from a corporate training seminar. "Mr. Holloway," he said, sliding a paper across the table, "my clients are willing to be reasonable. Take down the website, pay $10,000 to cover legal fees, sign a non-disclosure agreement, and this all goes away." I looked at the paper, looked at him. "No." "I'm sorry?" I said no. "See you in court." His smile faltered. "Mr. Holloway, you can't win this. We have substantially more resources than you do. Litigation is expensive. We can drag this out for years." I stood up. "Then I guess you better get comfortable. Because I'm not signing anything, I'm not paying anything, and I'm not shutting up." I walked out feeling equal parts terrified and exhilarated. I couldn't afford a lawyer. I'd be representing myself, which meant I needed to get very good at HOA law very quickly. I spent the next 3 weeks living in the public library and online legal databases. North Carolina General Statutes, Chapter 47, F. The Planned Community Act, Robert's Rules of Order, Bylaws, Covenants, Fiduciary Duty Standards. It was dense, boring as hell, but I'm Coast Guard. We don't quit just because something's hard, and that's when I found the first crack in Darlene's armor. I was cross-referencing the HOA's bylaws posted on their website, ironically, with the meeting minutes from the last 3 years. The bylaws were clear. The board had to hold elections annually, with nominations open to all homeowners in good standing. Voting had to be done by secret ballot at a general meeting with at least 30 days' notice. The meeting minutes told a different story. For the last 3 years, there hadn't been any real elections. Darlene's re-election votes came from proxy ballots, pre-filled forms that she'd collected door to door, where homeowners just signed their name and trusted her to vote on their behalf. I remembered her doing it, actually. She'd knocked on my door 2 years ago with a clipboard, all smiles, saying it was just a formality to save everyone time. Except, according to North Carolina Statute 47F-3-108, proxy voting for board elections is illegal unless the proxy specifically names the candidate being voted for. Darlene's proxies were blank. She could have written in anyone. She could have written in her dog. Her entire board was illegitimate. I sat back in the library chair, the fluorescent lights humming above me, and felt that cold satisfaction settle in again. This wasn't just about my dock anymore. This was about dismantling a dictatorship. I drafted a recall petition that night. According to the bylaws, I needed signatures from 20% of homeowners, 68 people, to force a special election. I printed 200 copies and started going door to door the next evening after dinner. It was harder than I expected. People were scared. I'd knock, explain the situation, and watch them glance nervously over my shoulder like Darlene might be watching from the bushes. "I can't, Garrett. She'll find me. I'm sorry, I just want to stay out of it. My husband doesn't want any trouble." I got 14 signatures the first week. I was starting to think I'd miscalculated. Then Marisol showed up at my door on a Saturday morning with a thermos of coffee that smelled like cinnamon and determination in her eyes. "I've been talking to people," she said, settling into one of my porch chairs. "The other Hispanic families, the ones Darlene's been targeting with her landscaping violations. They're ready to sign, but they're afraid to do it publicly." "How many are we talking?" 47 families. I can get you signatures by Monday if you meet them at my house. Neutral ground." I could have hugged her. "Marisol, you're a lifesaver." She shrugged, sipping her coffee. "Darlene fined me $2,000 because my hedges were 6 inches too tall. Meanwhile, her sister's got a fountain in her front yard that violates 3 different rules." I'm done being quiet. We hit 73 signatures in 11 days. I hand-delivered the petition to the HOA office, a small building next to the clubhouse, on a Tuesday afternoon. The part-time secretary, an older woman named Ruth who'd always been kind to me, looked at the stack of papers like I'd handed her a live grenade. "Garrett, she's going to lose her mind." "I'm counting on it." Darlene called me that night. Didn't identify herself. Didn't need to. "You think you're clever?" Her voice was shaking rage or fear. I couldn't tell. "You think this changes anything?" "I think it changes everything, Darlene. Elections have consequences. You have no idea what you've started." "Neither do you." She hung up. The next morning, the HOA posted a notice for an emergency special assessment vote. Apparently, there was a catastrophic plumbing failure in the clubhouse that required immediate repairs, $80,000, to be voted on in 72 hours. I walked over to the clubhouse that afternoon. The pipes looked fine. The bathrooms were immaculate. I took pictures. Darlene wasn't trying to fix plumbing. She was trying to drain the reserve fund before anyone could audit it. And that meant she was desperate, which meant I was getting close to something big. I just had to figure out what. October 23rd, 2:40 in the morning. I woke up to an explosion. Not a huge one, not like the movies, but loud enough that my windows rattled and my brain went from dead asleep to full alert in half a second. Coast Guard training doesn't leave you. I was out of bed pulling on pants before I was fully conscious. Then I smelled it. Smoke, gasoline, burning plastic. I ran outside barefoot and my dock was an inferno. The Horizon Runner was completely engulfed, flames shooting 15 to 20 feet into the air, roaring like a jet engine. The heat hit me from 30 feet away, so intense I felt my eyebrows singe. The mast cracked with a sound like a gunshot and crashed into the water, hissing and spitting steam. Fiberglass bubbled and melted, dripping into the lake like candle wax. The smell was chemical, wrong, the kind of stench that gets into your lungs and stays there. I heard myself yelling something, I don't even know what, and then neighbors were running out of their houses. Someone was on the phone with 911, and I just stood there on the grass watching 3 years of work and 5 decades of memories burn down to the waterline. The fire department got there in 14 minutes. Might as well have been 14 hours. By the time they had hoses on it, there was nothing left to save. Just a charred skeleton sitting low in the water, smoke rising into the pre-dawn darkness. The fire marshal showed up at sunrise, middle-aged guy with tired eyes and a clipboard walking the dock in boots that left wet prints on the blackened planks. He took samples, photos, measurements. Finally, he came over to where I was sitting on my porch steps, wrapped in a blanket someone had given me, staring at nothing. "Arson," he said. No preamble. "Accelerant used, looks like gasoline. Point of origin was the stern deck. Someone poured it, lit it, ran. Textbook security cameras? I saw them. I'll need the footage." I pulled it up on my phone, hands shaking. The footage showed two figures in dark hoodies at 2:37 a.m., faces completely obscured. They climbed onto the boat, one carrying what looked like a gas can. 30 seconds later, they were running back down the dock. A dark sedan, no visible plates, headlights off, pulled away toward the main exit. The marshal watched it twice. "I'll forward this to the sheriff. They'll open an investigation. It was the HOA. He looked at me for a long moment. "I can't put that in my report. I can only tell you what the evidence shows. But yeah, off the record, timing's suspicious as hell." He left. I sat there as the sun came up, watching smoke curl off the wreckage, and felt something break inside my chest. That boat was the last piece of my father I had, the last physical thing that connected me to him, and someone had burned it to ash because I'd embarrassed them on the internet. My insurance adjuster came by that afternoon. Nice enough woman, mid-50s, apologetic in that professional way adjusters are. "Mr. Holloway, I'm so sorry. Your policy has a mysterious fire clause. If arson can't be proven conclusively, if no one's arrested, we can only pay depreciated whole value, $22,000. The boat was worth $60. "I know, I'm sorry. That's the policy." I just nodded. Didn't have the energy to argue. That same day, the HOA posted on their private Facebook group. I didn't see it until someone screenshotted and texted it to me. The post, written by Darlene. "Tragic accident at the marina last night. A reminder that all residents must follow fire safety codes and proper storage of flammable materials. Our thoughts are with those affected." Accident. She called it an accident. By evening, the neighborhood had split into camps. Marisol called to tell me GoFundMe donations were pouring in 11,000 in 4 days. Then she called back an hour later, voice tight. Darlene had reported the fundraiser to GoFundMe as fraudulent, and they'd frozen the account pending investigation. 3 families who'd publicly donated told Marisol they'd received HOA violation notices the next day. Suddenly, their mailboxes were non-compliant, or their trash cans were left out too long. People were scared to help me. I didn't blame them. Bryn drove up that night. Didn't call first, just showed up and hugged me in my driveway, and I realized I was shaking. "Dad, come stay with me. Please. These people are dangerous. They didn't want to kill me, honey. They wanted to scare me. Well, it's scaring me. Pack a bag. Come to Raleigh." I almost did. I actually started packing my garage, thinking maybe she was right. Maybe Darlene had won. Then I found my father's old Coast Guard operations manual in a box under the workbench. Leather cover, pages yellowed. Inside the front cover, in his handwriting, "Calm seas never made a skilled sailor. I love you. Dad." I sat on the concrete floor holding that book, and grief turned into something colder, sharper. If I couldn't prove they burned my boat, I'd prove something worse. I'd hit Darlene where she actually felt pain, her bank account, her reputation, her freedom. I pulled out my phone and called Theo Barnett. We'd served together in the Coast Guard. He'd gotten out in 2005, became a forensic accountant. And I'd saved his 16-year-old son from drowning during a rescue op in 2003. Theo sent me Christmas cards for a decade afterward. He picked up on the 3rd ring. "Garrett? Man, it's been forever. Hey, Theo. I need a favor. A big one." I told him everything. When I finished, there was silence. "You saved my kid's life, Garrett. Least I can do is sink this woman's career. Send me everything, financials, bylaws, invoices. I'll take a look. I can't pay you. Then don't. Call it even." I texted Marisol. "Stop the recall petition. We're going bigger." She replied, "¿Qué tienes en mente?" I looked out at the burned dock. "I'm going to take everything from her. Every dollar, every bit of power. I'm going to make sure she never does this to anyone else." Marisol sent back a single fire emoji. Fitting. Theo called me back 6 days later. It was a Tuesday evening, just after 7. I was sitting on my porch with a beer I wasn't really drinking, staring at the empty space where my dock used to be. The county had made me tear down what was left liability hazard, they said. "Garrett, you sitting down?" "Yeah. What did you find?" "A goddamn gold mine." I could hear papers rustling on his end. "I've been doing this for 15 years. Corporate fraud, embezzlement, pension theft, and this is amateur hour." She didn't even try to hide it. He walked me through it, and I grabbed a notepad. First, the ghost vendor. Pinnacle Property Solutions, LLC. It had received $127,000 over 30 months for landscaping consultation and community management advisory services. Theo traced the business registration filed with the North Carolina Secretary of State in 2021. The registered agent? Darlene Hurst. Hurst was Darlene's maiden name, the one she used before she married and divorced some guy back in the 90s. It's a shell company, Theo said. No website, no business address except a P.O. box in Wilmington, no employee records. The money goes into Pinnacle's account, then gets transferred to her personal checking within 48 hours, every single time. Second, the inflated contracts. Darlene's real estate brokerage, Vicarage Properties, had billed the HOA for community management consulting at $340 per hour. Normal rate for that kind of work, $75 to $100, maybe $120 if you're in a major city. Over 2 years, she'd overbilled by roughly $68,000. And here's the kicker, Theo said. The board approved these contracts in closed sessions. No homeowner vote, no transparency. That violates your bylaws and North Carolina statute. HOA boards have fiduciary duty. They're supposed to act in the community's best interest, not line their own pockets. Third, the bonuses. The board, Darlene, her sister Paige, and Hank had voted themselves monthly stipends of $800 each, retroactive for 2 years, $19,000 each, total $57,000. The bylaws required a 2/3 vote of all homeowners for any board compensation. There'd never been a vote. I did the math on my notepad. Even being conservative, we were looking at $195,000 in embezzlement and fraud. Theo, how solid is this? Courtroom solid. I can testify as an expert witness. But Garrett, there's one more thing you need to know. What? Darlene filed for personal bankruptcy in 2019. Chapter 7, discharged $78,000 in credit card and medical debt, so she had motive. She was drowning financially. Then suddenly she's president of an HOA with $1.8 million budget and zero oversight. I leaned back in my chair, watching the sun set over the lake. Can we freeze the HOA's accounts? Not directly. But if you file a complaint with the Secretary of State's Corporate Enforcement Division and report the fraud to the IRS, HOAS are tax-exempt under 501c4, and fraud voids that status, the bank will likely freeze accounts pending investigation. It's standard protocol when there's suspected embezzlement. How fast can we do this? I can have the complaint drafted by Thursday. You'll need to file it, and you'll need to send a certified demand to the HOA's bank citing fraudulent transactions. I'll write that letter too. Do it. I filed both complaints Friday morning. Secretary of State Corporate Fraud Division, IRS, Form 3949A for tax-exempt organization fraud. I sent the certified letter to SunTrust, the HOA's bank, with copies of Theo's findings attached. By Monday afternoon, Darlene received the notice. I know because Marisol called me, laughing. Garrett, she just left the HOA office screaming into her phone. Something about the bank freezing the accounts. What did you do? Pulled the plug. SunTrust's fraud department had opened an investigation. All HOA accounts, operating in reserve, were frozen pending resolution. Darlene couldn't access a single dollar. Couldn't pay the part-time groundskeeper. Couldn't pay for the clubhouse's upcoming roof repair. Couldn't pay her law firm. The board called an emergency meeting for Wednesday. I didn't go. Didn't need to. Marisol went, though, and recorded the audio on her phone. Darlene was panicking, trying to transfer the reserve fund to a new account at a different bank. The bank blocked it. Investigation active. All assets frozen. Thursday morning, a white BMW pulled into my driveway. Darlene got out, no makeup, hair uncombed, wearing yoga pants and a stained t-shirt. She looked 10 years older than the last time I'd seen her. She walked up to my porch. I stayed seated. Please, she said. Her voice cracked. Call them off. The banks, the state, all of it. I'll resign. I'll leave. Just stop. I looked at her for a long moment. Thought about my father's boat. Thought about the spray paint, the lawsuit, the fire. You should have thought of that before you burned my father's boat. I stood up, walked inside, and closed the door. Through the window, I watched her stand there for a full minute before she walked back to her car, shoulders shaking. I didn't feel good about it, but I didn't feel bad either. 2 nights later, 6 of us sat around Marisol's kitchen table. It was almost 10 p.m., and the house smelled like reheated tamales and strong coffee. Marisol's kids were asleep upstairs, and we'd spread documents across every available surface, HOA financials, bylaws, bank statements, legal statutes printed from the library. Theo was on Marisol's laptop via Zoom, his face pixelated but his voice clear. Next to me sat Deputy Tom Crowley, technically off-duty but still in his uniform because he'd come straight from his shift. Across from us was Evelyn Frost, 68 years old, retired paralegal, HOA resident, and the sharpest legal mind I'd ever met who wasn't a lawyer. She'd brought 3 banker's boxes full of case files and precedents, her reading glasses perched on her nose. And Marisol, of course, pouring coffee and taking notes in a spiral notebook with handwriting so neat it looked printed. "All right," I said. "Darlene's desperate. The accounts are frozen, she can't pay her legal team, and she knows we have evidence. She's going to come at us hard. So we need to hit her from every angle at once. Legal, financial, criminal, and public. Overwhelm her defenses." Evelyn looked up from a document she'd been reading. "I've seen this strategy work in corporate litigation. You file simultaneous actions across multiple jurisdictions. It's expensive for the defendant to fight on all fronts. They make mistakes." "Exactly," Theo said through the laptop speaker. "And Darlene's already made plenty." We spent the next 3 hours building the plan. Evelyn called it Operation Clean Sweep, which I thought was corny as hell, but Marisol loved it so the name stuck. The legal front was Evelyn's domain. She'd already drafted a demand letter to every board member individually, not as a group, informing them of their personal liability for breach of fiduciary duty. North Carolina law is clear. Board members can be held personally responsible for financial misconduct. Their homes, their savings, everything was fair game if we won a civil suit. "The key," Evelyn explained, stirring sugar into her coffee, "is to offer immunity to whoever cooperates first. Paige is the weak link. She's terrified. I know her daughter helped her through a landlord dispute 2 years ago. I can leverage that relationship. She'd deliver the letters via process server Monday morning. Couldn't claim they didn't receive them that way." Theo handled the financial front. He'd already filed the complaint with the Attorney General's Consumer Protection Division, but now he was escalating. The AG's office had a dedicated HOA fraud task force. Apparently, this kind of thing was common enough to warrant its own team. They'd assigned a prosecutor, an assistant AG named Vivian Cho, who had a reputation for crushing white-collar criminals. "Cho's team will audit everything," Theo said. "Bank records, tax filings, vendor contracts. It'll take them about 2 weeks. If they find what I found, and they will, Darlene's looking at criminal charges, embezzlement, fraud, tax evasion." "How much time could she get?" Marisol asked. "Felony embezzlement in North Carolina? 5 to 10 years, depending on the amount. She's over 100K. That's serious time." Deputy Crowley leaned forward, elbows on the table. "I've been talking to the State Bureau of Investigation about the arson." Quietly. "The local sheriff's department doesn't have the resources for this kind of case, but SBI does. They're interested, especially with the security footage and the timeline. They want to bring in Darlene's son for questioning." "Trey," I said, "you think he did it?" "I think Darlene asked him to, and I think he was dumb enough to say yes." Crowley pulled out a folded paper from his pocket. "I ran his juvie record sealed, but I have access. 2 arrests for arson when he was 16 and 17. Burning trash cans, an abandoned shed. Got counseling, charges dropped. But it's a pattern." My stomach tightened. "You think SBI can prove it?" "If they question him, he'll fold. Kid's not smart, and if they lean on him, offer a deal, he'll give up his mom." The social front was mine and Marisol's. We'd organize a town hall meeting, not an HOA meeting, but a community gathering open to all residents plus local press. The community center rented their main hall for $150. We'd present all the evidence publicly, Theo's financial analysis, the ghost vendor, the embezzlement, everything. Let the court of public opinion weigh in before the actual courts did. "We invite the media," I said, WRAL, News and Observer, local bloggers. "Make it impossible for Darlene to control the narrative. And we record everything," Marisol added. "Live stream it on Facebook. Transparency all the way." Evelyn smiled. It was not a warm smile. "She'll panic. She'll try to stop it, maybe threaten legal action. But she can't. It's a public venue, public information, and she's a public figure by virtue of being HOA president." I looked around the table. A retired paralegal, a forensic accountant on a laptop, a deputy sheriff, a landscaper, and a burned-out Coast Guard vet. We looked like a bad heist movie. But we had something Darlene didn't. We were right. We had proof, and we had nothing left to lose. "When do we move?" Crowley asked. "Monday," I said. "Monday, Evelyn serves the letters, Theo submits the AG evidence, I reserve the community center and send press releases. We schedule the town hall for 2 weeks out December 18th. Gives the AG time to start the audit, gives SBI time to question Trey, and gives Darlene just enough rope to hang herself." "What if she runs?" Marisol asked. Evelyn shook her head. She won't. She's too arrogant. She thinks she can talk her way out of this. People like Darlene always do, right up until the handcuffs click. We broke up around midnight. Crowley left first, then Evelyn with her boxes of files. Theo logged off with a promise to have the AG submission ready by Sunday night. Marisol walked me to the door. You really think this'll work? I think we're about to find out. She hugged me quick, fierce. Your dad would be proud. I drove home through empty streets, past the lake where my dock used to be, and for the first time since the fire, I felt something other than rage. I felt hope. Darlene didn't wait long to strike back. Monday morning, I woke up to my phone blowing up. 17 missed calls, 34 text messages, all from different neighbors. I scrolled through them, my coffee going cold on the counter, and felt my blood pressure spike. Darlene had posted something on the HOA's Facebook group at 6 a.m. Screenshots were flooding my texts. It was a doctored email, supposedly from me, dated 2 weeks before the fire. The text read, "You'll regret crossing me, Darlene. I promise you that. You have no idea what I'm capable of." Except I'd never written that email. The font was wrong, the spacing was off, and my actual email address had a hyphen in it that this one didn't. But to someone scrolling Facebook at dawn, it looked real enough. Her post above the screenshot, "I've been trying to handle this privately, but I can no longer stay silent. Garrett Holloway has been threatening me for months. I fear for my safety and my family's safety. I've reported this to authorities and am considering a restraining order. Please keep your distance from this individual." By noon, I had 3 separate homeowners file formal complaints with the sheriff's department. Anonymous calls claiming I'd been acting erratically and making threats. Deputy Crowley had to come by and take statements, procedure, even though he knew it was garbage. This is harassment, Tom. I know, but I have to follow up on complaints. You know that. He closed his notepad. For what it's worth, the email's obviously fake. Wrong metadata, suspicious timing. Any decent investigator would toss this in 5 seconds. But damage was done. People who'd been on the fence about supporting me were now nervous. I saw it when I went to the grocery store that afternoon. Neighbors who used to wave now avoided eye contact. One guy I'd taught his kid to sail actually crossed the street when he saw me coming. Darlene wasn't done either. That same day, someone registered a Google business listing for Garrett's Dock Services, a company I've never owned, and flooded it with 1-star reviews. Took my deposit and disappeared. Shoddy work, refused to fix mistakes. Threatened me when I asked for a refund. All posted within a 3-hour window, all from brand new accounts. I reported it to Google. They said it would take 7 to 10 business days to investigate. Meanwhile, Darlene hired some reputation management firm out of Charlotte. Suddenly, if you Googled my name, the first 3 results were these fake reviews and a Yelp page for a Garrett Holloway contracting that had never existed. My actual LinkedIn profile was buried on page 2. She'd spent serious money on this, probably $8,000 to $10,000. Money she'd stolen from the HOA, now being used to destroy my credibility. Then the whisper campaign started. Marisol heard it first, at her kid's school pickup. One of the other moms, nice lady, lived 4 streets over, pulled her aside and said quietly, "Is it true Garrett burned his own boat?" For the insurance money? Marisol almost threw her coffee at her. What? Number. Who told you that? I heard it at book club. Someone said Darlene mentioned it, that there's an investigation. By Wednesday, that rumor had spread to half the neighborhood. I got a call from my insurance adjuster, annoyed, saying they'd received an anonymous tip about potential fraud and had to extend their investigation another 2 weeks. I knew exactly who'd made that call. Thursday, 3 homeowners filed formal complaints with the sheriff claiming I was harassing Darlene. Different people, same day, same language in their statements. Coordinated. The sheriff, not Crowley, his boss called me in for an interview. I brought Evelyn, who explained calmly and thoroughly that this was a retaliatory campaign by someone facing criminal charges. The sheriff listened, looked tired, and told me to stay away from Mrs. Vickridge and let the legal system handle this. I haven't been anywhere near her. Good. Keep it that way. I walked out of that office feeling like I was drowning. Darlene had flipped the script. Suddenly I was the bad guy, the unstable veteran with a grudge, the one people needed to be protected from. Friday afternoon, Theo called with more bad news. Garrett, someone tried to bribe me. What? LinkedIn message came in this morning from a D. Vickridge, offered me $25,000 to reevaluate my findings and issue a revised report saying the HOA finances were clean. Used the phrase, consulting fee. I sat down hard in my kitchen chair. She's that stupid? Apparently. I screenshotted everything and forwarded it to AG Cho. This is a separate crime witness tampering, obstruction of justice. Cho's adding it to the case file. At least that was something. Every time Darlene tried to stop us, she dug herself deeper. But in the moment, it didn't feel like winning. It felt like getting punched in the face repeatedly while waiting for the referee to call a foul. Saturday night, someone slashed all 4 tires on my truck, parked in my own driveway. No cameras caught it. They'd parked out of frame, come up from the side yard. Sunday morning, Marisol's landscaping truck got hit. Spray painted across the side panel. A slur I won't repeat. She called me in tears, not from sadness, but from rage. They came to my house, Garrett, where my kids sleep. I know, I'm sorry. Don't apologize. Let's bury her. That afternoon, Evelyn called with better news. Paige had cracked. She showed up at my house this morning, Evelyn said. Scared out of her mind. Said she got the demand letter, talked to a lawyer, realized she could go to prison. She wants immunity. Did you tell her we can't promise that? I told her we'd recommend leniency to the AG if she cooperates fully. That was enough. She's providing everything: emails, bank records, board meeting recordings she made secretly. And Garrett, she gave us the smoking gun. Which is an email from Darlene to Paige dated 2 days before the fire. Quote, code the Pinnacle payments as landscaping Miss C and don't itemize. And don't worry about the boat situation, I'm handling it personally. I closed my eyes. She wrote that down. Criminals always think they're smarter than they are. Paige also said Darlene bragged about the fire at a family dinner, said it solved the problem. Will Paige testify? She already gave a sworn affidavit to AG Cho. She's terrified, but she'll testify. I hung up and walked out to where my dock used to be. The sun was setting, painting the lake orange and gold. In 2 days, we'd hold the town hall. In 2 days, this would either end or escalate into something worse. I thought about Darlene, frantic and desperate, making mistake after mistake. My father used to say the most dangerous part of any rescue operation is when the victim starts panicking. That's when they fight you, drag you under, make everything worse. Darlene was panicking, which meant we were close. December rolled in cold and gray, the kind of weather where the sky looks like concrete and the lake turns slate-colored and mean. 2 weeks until the town hall, and the state investigation was moving faster than any of us expected. AG Cho called me on a Tuesday morning while I was replacing the tires on my truck, $400 I didn't have, but what choice did I have? Mr. Holloway, this is Assistant Attorney General Vivian Cho. Do you have a few minutes? I wiped grease off my hands with a shop rag. Yeah, what's up? We've completed our preliminary audit of the Emerald Shores HOA. I want to walk you through what we found because some of this will become public record soon and you should hear it from me first. I sat down on my porch steps, the cold concrete seeping through my jeans. She laid it out methodically. The audit confirmed everything Theo had found, plus more. The ghost vendor payments totaled $127,000. The inflated consulting contracts to Darlene's brokerage added another $68,000. The illegal board stipends were $57,000. But here's what Theo had missed. The HOA's tax filings were fraudulent. For 3 years running, Darlene had underreported the HOA's income by roughly $110,000 total. Filed false 990 forms with the IRS. Federal tax fraud on top of state embezzlement. We also pulled her personal financial records, Cho continued. She filed for bankruptcy in 2019, discharged $78,000 in debt. Then, 6 months after becoming HOA president, she starts making cash deposits. Over the next 2 years, she bought a condo in Myrtle Beach, paid $340,000 cash and a new Lexus. No mortgage, no auto loan. Her real estate commissions for that period, maybe $70,000 a year, pre-tax. The math doesn't work unless she had another income source. The HOA, I said. Exactly. We're issuing subpoenas this week. Darlene, her sister Paige, Hank Morales, the VP, all bank records, personal and business. We'll have formal charges ready by mid-January. What kind of charges? Felony embezzlement, multiple counts, fraud, tax evasion, witness tampering for the bribery attempt on your forensic accountant. Conservatively, she's looking at 7 to 10 years if convicted. I let that sink in. 7 to 10 years. For burning my boat and stealing from 340 families. It almost felt like enough. Cho wasn't done. There's one more thing. We contacted the State Bureau of Investigation about the arson. They brought in Darlene's son, Trey Vickridge, for questioning yesterday. My heart kicked up. And? He lawyered up immediately, which is smart. But before his attorney arrived, he said something interesting. The investigator asked him where he was the night of October 23rd. He said he was home. Then the investigator showed him the security footage, the dark sedan leaving the marina. Trey went pale and said, "I want a lawyer." "That's not a confession." "No, but his car is a dark blue Honda Accord. We're getting a warrant for it, checking for gasoline residue, forensic evidence. And we're offering him a deal. Testify against his mother, reduced charges, 3 years versus 15. You think he'll take it?" His lawyer's already reached out. Off the record? Yeah, he's 27, unemployed, living in his mother's basement. He doesn't want to do 15 years for mommy's vendetta. After I hung up, I just sat there for a while, watching my breath steam in the cold air. It was happening. The walls were closing in on Darlene from every direction. State, federal, criminal, civil. And she knew it, which made her more dangerous. That afternoon, local news hit. WRAL ran a segment. Lakeside HOA president under investigation for embezzlement. They didn't name Darlene specifically, ongoing investigation, but everyone knew. The story showed B-roll footage of the Emerald Shores entrance sign and the clubhouse. They interviewed AG Cho, who gave a carefully worded statement about financial misconduct by HOA leadership. The segment ended with, "The Attorney General's office says charges are expected in the coming weeks." My phone exploded. Texts from neighbors, some apologizing for avoiding me, others asking questions, a few still defending Darlene. Marisol sent me a link to the HOA Facebook group, which had gone from private to total meltdown. People demanding Darlene resign immediately, others claiming this was all a conspiracy. One guy threatened to sue the entire board for mismanaging his dues. Darlene tried to hold a press conference that evening. It was a disaster. She did it at her real estate brokerage. Marisol drove by and recorded it on her phone, sent me the video. Darlene stood in front of a banner that said, "Vicarage Properties, your lakeside experts." Her makeup too heavy, her smile too tight. A local news crew and maybe a dozen people showed up. "I've dedicated 11 years of my life to the Emerald Shores community," she said, reading from notes. "These allegations are politically motivated. This is a witch hunt by a disgruntled former resident who—" "You mean the guy whose boat burned down?" someone shouted from the back. Darlene faltered. "That was investigated. It was ruled accidental. Arson, actually," the same voice said. I think it was Marisol. Darlene's face went red. "This audit is biased. The Attorney General is an elected official with an agenda. So you didn't embezzle $195,000? A reporter this time. Those are allegations, not facts. Did you or did you not operate a shell company called Pinnacle Property Solutions?" Darlene's hands started shaking. The papers slipped. She bent to pick them up, and when she stood, there were tears running down her face, cutting tracks through her foundation. "I've given everything to this community," she said, voice breaking. "Everything. And this is how you repay me?" She walked off camera. The video ended. It went viral locally. 347,000 views in 2 days. TikTok, Facebook, local news sites. The comments were brutal. Someone made it into a meme with the caption, "When the HOA president realizes embezzlement has consequences." I should have felt good about it, vindicated, but mostly I just felt tired. 3 days later, Darlene's real estate brokerage Coldwell Banker franchise quietly removed her profile from their website. Then they issued a statement. Darlene Vicarage has been placed on administrative leave pending resolution of personal legal matters. Coldwell Banker takes ethics seriously and is cooperating fully with authorities. Translation: they were cutting her loose. Hank, the VP, hired a lawyer and reached out to AG Cho's office the same day. His attorney sent Evelyn a courtesy email. Hank was cooperating fully, providing documents, and would testify if needed. He claimed he didn't know about the embezzlement, just signed papers Darlene put in front of him. Plausible? Maybe. Convenient? Definitely. But the real bombshell came from SBI. Deputy Crowley called me Friday afternoon. "Garrett, SBI just executed a warrant on Trey Vicarage's car. Found a gas can in the trunk, residue on the upholstery. Forensics matched it to the accelerant used in your boat fire." I gripped the phone. They got him. They got him. He's taking a deal 3 years, full testimony. And here's the part you need to hear. They found text messages between Trey and his mother. Night of October 20th, 3 days before the fire. Darlene texted, "Need you to handle the boat situation. Make it look like an accident. Scare him good." She texted that. On her personal phone. SBI has the warrant, pulled all her records. She also Googled how to commit arson without getting caught. And statute of limitations property damage, North Carolina. All logged. I closed my eyes and saw the Horizon Runner burning, smelled the gasoline and melted fiberglass, felt the heat on my face. When are they arresting her? Monday. Charges are felony arson, conspiracy, insurance fraud. On top of everything the AG's office is bringing. Garrett, she's done. Completely done. I sat down on my couch, phone still pressed to my ear. Tom, thank you for everything. You did this, man. You and your team. I just pushed paper. After I hung up, I walked out to the empty dock space. The sun was setting again, turning the water orange and gold. In 3 days we'd hold the town hall, but it felt almost anticlimactic now. The real battle was already won. Darlene had burned my father's boat to silence me. Instead, she'd burned down her entire life. December 18th, 7 p.m. The community center was packed. I'd reserved the main hall for 150 people. 312 showed up. Folks were standing along the back wall, sitting in the aisles, crowding the doorway. The fire marshal probably should have shut us down, but Deputy Crowley in uniform, positioned near the front, gave him a look and he let it slide. Every seat was filled. I recognized maybe 60% of the Faces Emerald Shores residents, neighbors I'd waved to for 2 years. The other 40% were outsiders, drawn by the news coverage. I spotted 2 WRAL cameras setting up in the back corner. A reporter from the News and Observer sat in the third row with a notepad. 3 local bloggers had their phones out, live streaming to Facebook. Marisol had set up a projector and screen at the front. Evelyn sat in the front row with 3 accordion folders of documents. Theo was on a laptop via Zoom again, his face on a small monitor we'd positioned on a side table. A.G. Cho sat in the second row. She didn't have to be here, but she'd come anyway, sent a message. And in the back corner, trying to be inconspicuous and failing completely, sat Darlene Vickridge. She'd come alone. No lawyer, no sister, no friends. She wore a black pantsuit that looked expensive, but hung wrong on her frame, like she'd lost weight. Her hair was pulled back tight, no makeup. She looked small and brittle, a ceramic figurine 1 crack away from shattering. Next to her, people had left 2 empty seats on either side. Nobody wanted to sit near her. I stood at the podium and waited for the room to quiet. It took a full minute. When I finally spoke, my voice carried clear and steady Coast Guard training, projecting without yelling. Good evening. My name is Garrett Holloway. Most of you know me. Some of you have probably heard things about me over the last few months, some true, some not. Tonight, I'm going to show you what's true, and I'm going to show you what your HOA board has been doing with your money. I clicked to the first slide, a photo of the Horizon runner before the fire-gleaming white hull, teak deck, my father standing on it in 1989, grinning at the camera. This was my father's boat. He died 5 years ago. I spent 3 years restoring it. On October 23rd, someone burned it to the waterline. This is what it looked like the next morning. Next slide. The charred wreckage, smoke still rising, the mast collapsed into the water. A collective intake of breath rippled through the room. The fire marshal ruled it arson. Gasoline was used as accelerant. Security footage showed 2 people fleeing the scene. Law enforcement now has a suspect in custody who has confessed. That person was hired by someone in this room to destroy my property. I didn't look at Darlene. Didn't need to. Every head in the room turned toward the back corner. But this isn't just about my boat. This is about what happens when people in power think they're untouchable. So let me show you where your money went. Next slide. The chart Theo had made, showing money flowing from HOA accounts to Pinnacle Property Solutions. Over 30 months, your HOA paid $127,000 to a company called Pinnacle Property Solutions. This company has no website, no employees, no physical address except a P.O. box. It was registered by Darlene Vickridge under her maiden name. It's a shell company. The money went in and was transferred to her personal account within 48 hours. Every time. Murmurs now, louder. Someone in the middle shouted, "That's our money." Yes, it is. Here's more. I clicked through the next slides. The inflated consulting contracts, $68,000 in overcharges. The illegal board stipends, $57,000. The underreported tax filings, federal fraud. Each slide was clean, simple, damning. Total estimated theft, $195,000. That's your dues money. Money you paid for community maintenance, for roads, for the clubhouse. It went into Darlene Vickridge's pocket. She used it to buy a condo in Myrtle Beach and a new car. The room was getting loud now, people standing up, shouting questions. I held up my hand. I know you're angry. You should be. But here's the good news. The North Carolina Attorney General has completed a full audit. Criminal charges are being filed. Felony embezzlement, fraud, tax evasion, witness tampering. And thanks to evidence provided by board members who chose to cooperate. I glanced at Paige, who was sitting near the middle, looking like she wanted to disappear. The state has everything it needs for prosecution. A G. Cho stood up. The room went silent. Good evening. I'm Assistant Attorney General Vivian Cho. I'm here in an unofficial capacity, but I want to confirm what Mr. Holloway just told you. My office has completed its investigation. We will be filing charges against Darlene Vickridge next week. I can't discuss specifics, but I can tell you this. When board members steal from their community, we take it seriously. Your HOA will recover these funds through restitution and civil action. Mrs. Vickridge's assets, her properties, her accounts will be seized to repay what was stolen. Applause broke out. Not polite applause, raw, angry, cathartic clapping. It went on for 30 seconds. Then someone in the back yelled, "What about the boat? Did she burn his boat?" The room went quiet again. Cho looked at me. I nodded. The State Bureau of Investigation has arrested Trey Vickridge in connection with the arson, Cho said carefully. He has confessed and is cooperating with investigators. Evidence indicates he was acting at the direction of another party. Additional arrests are forthcoming. Every eye turned to Darlene. She stood up suddenly, chair scraping loud in the silence. Her face was red, blotchy, mascara running, even though I didn't think she'd been crying. "This is a lie," she said, voice shaking. "All of it. He's lying. That boat was a piece of junk, probably insurance fraud." "Sit down, Mrs. Vickridge," Cho said, not loud, but sharp as a knife. "I've given 11 years. "You've stolen for 11 years, I said. Quiet, cold, every word clear. "You stole money, you stole time, you stole my father's legacy. And when I stood up to you, you tried to destroy me. You failed." Darlene's mouth opened, closed. She looked around the room like she was searching for allies and finding none. Everyone was staring at her with expressions ranging from disgust to pity. She grabbed her purse and pushed toward the exit. People moved aside to let her pass, pressing back against the walls like she was contagious. She stumbled once, caught herself, and then she was gone, the door swinging shut behind her. Nobody said anything for a solid 10 seconds. Then Marisol stood up. "I move that we dissolve the current HOA board immediately and hold emergency elections in 30 days. "Seconded." 3 people shouted it simultaneously. I looked at Evelyn. She stood, pulled out a printed sheet. "According to your bylaws, a vote of no confidence requires 51% of homeowners present at a valid meeting. We have 223 homeowners here tonight. Show of hands all in favor of dissolving the current board." A forest of hands shot up. I didn't count, but it looked like 200. "Motion carries," Evelyn said. "The board is dissolved effective immediately. Nominations for interim leadership are now open." The meeting went another hour. They elected Marisol interim president, Evelyn interim treasurer, voted to hire an independent management company, voted to sue Darlene personally for the full amount plus legal fees, voted to reduce dues by $80 a month once the mismanaged funds were recovered. At 9:30, people started filtering out. A dozen folks came up to shake my hand, apologize for doubting me, thank me for standing up. The WRAL reporter asked for an interview. I gave her 5 minutes, kept it simple. By 10 p.m., it was just me, Marisol, Evelyn, and Crowley left, folding chairs and breaking down the projector. "You know the weird thing?" I said, stacking chairs against the wall. "I don't feel as good as I thought I would." Marisol laughed, tired. "That's because you're not a psychopath. Revenge doesn't actually feel great. Justice feels, I don't know, quiet." "Expensive too," Evelyn said, packing her folders. "But worth it." Crowley clapped me on the shoulder. "For what it's worth, Garrett, you did good. Most people would have just moved." "Yeah, well, I'm stubborn." We locked up the community center and walked out into the cold December night. The parking lot was empty except for our cars. Overhead, stars were visible for the first time in weeks, sharp and bright against the black sky. I drove home past the lake, past the empty space where my dock had been, and pulled into my driveway. There was a note tucked under my windshield wiper, handwritten on lined paper. "Thank you. You freed us all." A neighbor. I folded it carefully and put it in my pocket. Then I went inside, made a cup of tea, and slept better than I had in 3 months. February came, and with it, the verdicts. Darlene Vickridge was indicted on 17 counts. Felony embezzlement, fraud, tax evasion, witness tampering, conspiracy to commit arson, and insurance fraud. Her lawyer tried to negotiate a plea deal. Ajit Cho rejected it. They went to trial in April. The trial lasted 6 days. I testified on day 3, walked the jury through the timeline, the fake violations, the burned boat, the frozen accounts. Paige testified on day 4, shaking but resolute, reading from the emails Darlene had sent. Trey testified on day 5, describing how his mother had asked him to send a message and handed him $200 cash for gas and a road flare. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. Guilty on 14 counts. Not guilty on 3. The jury didn't think she'd personally known about all of Trey's actions, gave her that much benefit of the doubt. The judge sentenced her in May. 7 years in state prison, eligible for parole in 4. $195,000 in restitution to the HOA, $48,000 in fines to the state, $38,000 directly to me for the boat. She stood there in an orange jumpsuit, hands cuffed in front of her, and didn't say a word. Didn't look at anyone, just stared straight ahead while the bailiff let her out. Her Myrtle Beach condo was foreclosed the following week. The proceeds, $310,000 after legal fees, went into the HOA's recovery fund. Her Lexus was auctioned. Her real estate license was revoked. Trey Vickridge took his plea deal. 3 years, out in 2 with good behavior. Last I heard, he was doing his time quietly, working in the prison kitchen. The HOA recovered almost everything. Between the asset seizures, the restitution order, and a successful civil suit, the community got back every dollar Darlene had stolen. The new board, Marisol as president, Evelyn as treasurer, 4 other residents I'd never met but who seemed competent used the money wisely. They resurfaced the neighborhood roads, $80,000. Installed a new playground near the clubhouse, $35,000. Fixed the actual clubhouse plumbing that Darlene had been ignoring for years, $18,000. And with the remaining funds, $80,000, they created an endowment, the Horizon Scholarship. $5,000 annually to a local high school senior pursuing a career in maritime services, Coast Guard, Marine Corps, commercial fishing, naval architecture, anything connected to the water, named after my father's boat. First recipient was a kid from the next county over, daughter of a shrimper, wanted to join the Coast Guard. Bryn and I presented the check at a little ceremony in June. I shook the girl's hand and saw my father in her eyes, that hunger to be part of something bigger than yourself. I rebuilt my dock in March, used some of the restitution money, did most of the work myself. It's stronger than the old one, treated lumber and stainless hardware, built to last another 30 years. I haven't bought a new boat yet. I will, eventually, taking my time. Sometimes I sit on the dock in the evenings with a beer and just watch the water. It's enough. I started teaching sailing lessons again in April. Borrowed boats from the yacht club, same as before. 6 kids this summer, ages 9 to 14. We spent Saturday mornings on the lake, learning points of sail and how to read the wind. One of them asked me why I kept teaching for free. Because someone taught me for free once, I said, and that's how it works. Marisol's landscaping business is thriving. She hired 2 full-time employees and bought a second truck. We grab coffee sometimes, laugh about the absurdity of it all. She calls me El Contador, the accountant, because of the spreadsheets. I call her Madam President. She threatens to fine me for improper hedge height. We're good. Evelyn still sends me articles about HOA fraud cases in other states, with notes like, "See? We're not crazy." She's become the neighborhood's unofficial legal advisor. People bring her their problems. She helps for free, just likes being useful. Deputy Crowley got promoted to sergeant. Sends me Christmas cards now. Bryn visits twice a month instead of once. Sometimes she brings her boyfriend architect too. Nice guy, little boring, but treats her well. They're talking about getting engaged. She asked if I'd walk her down the aisle when the time comes. I said, obviously. I'm dating someone. Sort of. Her name's Claire. She's a chef at a bistro downtown. Evelyn's niece. We've been on 6 dates. It's casual. Nice. She makes me laugh. Doesn't ask too many questions about the past. And bakes bread that smells like heaven. We'll see where it goes. The other day I got an email from someone 3 states away, a guy in a Florida HOA dealing with a corrupt board. He'd read about my case in the news, wanted advice. I spent an hour on the phone with him, walked him through FOIA requests, sunshine laws, how to find a forensic accountant. Did it feel worth it? He asked at the end. All that time and stress and money? I thought about my father's boat burning, thought about standing in front of 300 people and watching a tyrant collapse, thought about a scholarship with my father's name on it, funding some kid's dream every year forever. Yeah, I said. It was worth it. I still think about Darlene sometimes. Wonder if she thinks about what she lost, not the money or the freedom, but the chance to just be decent, to use her power to help people instead of crushing them. It was all right there. She could have been a good HOA president. She chose something else. But that's not my problem anymore. Spring turned to summer, summer to fall. The lake looks different now, cleaner somehow, lighter. Or maybe that's just me. I carved my father's initials into the new dock post. JMH, James Michael Holloway. Bryn came down for a weekend and hammered the final nail, a little copper one I'd saved for her. We spread the last of his ashes that evening, at sunset, from a borrowed sailboat. Just the two of us on the water, the sky turning pink and orange, the smell of coming autumn in the air. "He'd be proud of you, Dad," Bryn said. "I hope so. I know so." The ashes scattered across the water, caught the light for a moment, then disappeared into the lake he'd loved, into the place that was home. Now, I know some of you watching this have your own HOA nightmares. Maybe you're living one right now. So here's what I need you to do. Drop your HOA horror story in the comments below. Let's build a library of these things. Let's show people they're not alone. And if you're fighting a corrupt board right now, document everything. Save every email. Record every meeting your state allows. They're counting on you giving up. Don't. And if this story got you fired up, hit that subscribe button. Next week, I'm telling you about the landlord who illegally evicted a single mom, so she bought his entire building and evicted him. You won't want to miss it. Thanks for watching. And remember, calm seas never made a skilled sailor.
We appreciate you spending your time with us on HOA Stories, where HOA Karens finally get checked. If you enjoyed today's drama, hit like, comment on your favorite part below, and don't forget to subscribe so you'll be the first to catch our next HOA Showdown.